Welcome to the 5 a.m. podcast, where we bring you insightful conversations with thought leaders and influencers who are making headway and some waves in their callings and industries. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're diving deep into something we all search for: a life of meaning, purpose, and authentic connection. Our guest today has embarked on a powerful mission to help others build stronger foundations for their lives. Kurt Linville is the author of 99 Words, Building a Better Life. He's also a father of 4 who has watched his children navigate the complexities of young adulthood and saw firsthand the struggles many face without a solid belief system to guide them. After co-founding and growing the Adventure Sports podcast to be a top 10% of all podcasts, where he conducted hundreds of interviews with adventurers pushing physical and mental boundaries. Kurt later sold the show to focus on a different type of adventure, helping people discover pathways to more meaningful and joyful, rewarding lives. What makes Kurt's approach unique is that he's not here to tell you what to believe, but rather to share a framework for building a belief system that truly serves you, the individual. Whether you're questioning your purpose, rebuilding after a setback, or simply seeking a more intentional path forward, this conversation promises insights that could reshape how we approach each day. Now, of course, before we roll that intro, we want to thank our listeners for their engagement on our social media platforms. For those of you on YouTube, thanks for hitting that bell notification. And of course, we love those subscribes and thumbs up. And also, if you're listening on your favorite podcast player, we are thankful for your participation today. So thank you to all of you for your likes, shares, and subscribes. Now, while many of our viewers are in North America, the analytics, which we love in this house, say that I need to give a special welcome to our listeners beyond this continent. We've got some listeners in Colombia, Moscow, Russia, Southeast Asia. Thank you all, spasiba, for being here. We appreciate it. Now, I've got an intro to roll. Kurt, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to the 5 a.m. podcast.
Thank you, Michael. Glad to be here.
Oh, yeah. It's great. So we're not shooting this at 5 a.m., ladies and gentlemen, but I'm going to ask you, Kurt, we kind of celebrate being intentional about our day, setting the course of our day,
Right.
The benefits of getting up early. I'm curious, what does your morning routine look like, and how does maybe that get reflected in the principles of your book?
Oh, wow. The book doesn't really talk about morning routines.
Gotcha.
But the book is a morning routine.
Okay.
I wrote 99 Words, which is, it's 29 chapters long and 360 something pages. It's a good size work. I wrote it between 4 and 8 a.m. in the morning for about a year.
Wow.
And so that was my morning routine. It was getting out of bed at 4 a.m. And usually I get a hot drink. I sit down and have some quiet time and ponder what's going to happen during the day and what I need to do. And then I would start writing on the book. And so it was the morning routine that made this book possible.
Wow. That's fascinating. So could you share a specific moment or observation maybe that became that catalyst for writing this guide?
Oh, yeah. You mentioned some of it as I watched my own kids go through college, especially, and then start adulting in the adult world. I still have 2 kids in college and 2 that are out working in the workplace.
Yes.
We had raised them with skill sets to have foundational belief systems that they could build a life on. And as a result of that, it seemed like they did pretty well. They knew where they stood on things and they could withstand the storms of life because they had a place to stand, right?
Right. Wow.
But I also met their acquaintances and friends. And I knew this was the case, but I guess, Michael, what surprised me was how far down the road of bewilderment might be a word.
Yeah.
That many younger adults have found themselves. And I'm not sure all the dynamics. I
Right.
can list a few that I suspect. But one thing is a lot of traditional values came into question over the last few decades
Mm-hmm.
in the West, and some of that's good. We needed to reevaluate. Some of that was disruptive in a way that left people kind of um, without a good hold on life, and
Yeah.
that was part of it. But then you couple that more with the idea that we have social media now,
Mm-hmm.
and we are just bulldozed with such a huge volume of information constantly. And most of that is low quality, not thought out information that's either
Yeah.
trying to sell something or trying to get likes and looks.
Yes.
And so it's quite superficial. And frankly, I think it's bewildering because
Mm-hmm.
younger adults have grown up in a different world where
Yeah.
the screen is almost more of their social awareness and social life than the face-to-face community involvement and friendships and that sort of a
Right.
thing. And so what I've seen, and I really believe that there are some philosophies that have been popularized during the same period of time, which came out on social media and other places, of course.
Yeah. Right.
But there are some very, very misguided philosophies that have done some real damage.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm seeing are people of all ages can be in this situation, but especially younger adults as they begin
Yeah.
adulting and trying to
Right.
sort out how to build a meaningful life.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know where to start. I don't
Yes.
know what matters.
Yeah, I
I don't know
totally
what'll
get
make me
that.
happy.
Mm-hmm. And ladies and gentlemen, just to give you a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, when you're on your phone, this little thing here, if it's after 12 noon your time, 30% of what you're going to see is an ad. It could be user
Mm.
generated content. That's probably mostly what you're going to see, user generated content. Now, if you're on the black mirror, this little device, after 6 p.m., 60% of what you're going to see is an ad
Wow.
of some kind. It's going to be overt or covert, one of the two. But keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, as we're on these things. We've moved away from, let's say, satellite or cable television. That's almost like a dinosaur
Sure.
nowadays. Uh, you were talking about ideologies. Just to switch back away from that public, the public service
That's an
announcement
important
there.
announcement.
It sure is. So,
I
ladies
mean,
and gentlemen, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
well, I just wanted to add to that. What you're saying is there are a lot of advertising.
Yeah.
That means that all the algorithms to make you want to look are
Yes.
focused on making you want to look, whether it's good information or bad information, because the revenue comes from the advertising. And if you're
That's
not
right.
looking, they don't make money. So, I mean,
Yes.
they have psychology sorted out to the
Oh,
nth
yes.
degree to make
Colors.
you look.
Yes. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. When they used to say, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain or the woman, as the case may be. Now it's behind the screen. So, ladies
Yes.
and gentlemen, before I ask this next question about postmodernism, I want to just get you some feedback from all of you. So feel free to put something down in the comments for Kurt and myself,
Hmm.
and we would love to interact and engage with you. So you were, Kurt, you were talking about philosophies, and
Yeah.
one of the big ones that really dramatically gave people whiplash was that postmodernism
Right.
that came out of the Frankfurt School, namely. Do you want to get into maybe that battle, or are we at odds with postmodernism?
I personally believe that postmodernism has been immensely destructive
Yeah.
and harmful.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was a reaction to the idea that kind of came out of empiricism that everything could be figured out and that, there was one truth and that sort of thing. And so, as a reaction to that, people came up with the idea, and
Mm-hmm.
this is a surface level, just description, but the idea that there's your truth and my truth. And even if those two things are in conflict with each other, they're both true if we believe them.
Yeah.
But that's not a definition of truth. Now, you could say it's one way to formulate individual truth in your own life, but it's not a definition of what is true.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael, I'm a firm believer that there is one truth, and that's not a popular statement. People don't like to hear that these days, but I back it up quickly with, well, I believe that there is one truth, capital T truth.
Mm-hmm.
None of us has it. We're all on the journey towards sorting this out.
Mm.
And as we approach that capital T truth, we learn more, life gets better, we gain a lot of ground. It's
Yeah.
very beneficial to
Hmm.
know there is something out there
Yeah,
worth knowing.
that's
And
right.
postmodernism flies in the face of that.
It sure does. And it gave birth to the political correctness and progressivism, I guess you could say,
Sure.
that we have now. And just to tease something that's coming up for our viewers, Marcia Familero Enright, her and I we dig deep. She's a former Montessori instructor
Mm.
and spent her career in education. So, ladies and gentlemen, that one's coming out. It might be out by the time you're listening to this, but we did a deep dive on that one. Now, speaking of truth, Kurt, your title is intriguing. 99 words. Could you maybe share the significance behind that, and perhaps maybe challenge our listeners by distilling your core message down?
Well, I'm going to rewind just a little bit so they
Sure.
can get a feel for how it all
Okay.
fits in.
Sounds good.
The title of the book is also the title of the second chapter in the book,
Mm.
99 words, but they're 29 chapters, and that's just one chapter.
Wow. Okay.
But the reason I say that is because every chapter in the book someday may be its own book. I really wrote
Gotcha.
every chapter about things I felt like were very critical to living a better life. And each chapter addresses something that could be a deep dive into a whole other book.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I personally am not a fan of books where they have three main points and 200 pages of filler.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
That's not what I like. So instead I wrote a book where every chapter could be its own book, and
Wow.
someday it may be. We'll see what
Right.
happens. But so 99 words, the reason I named the book that was kind of because of the experience I had when I started writing it. And what I did, Michael, is I thought I want to write a book that will help people,
Uh-huh.
to give people a toolkit. Not that I have all the answers, but I can give them a toolkit where they can start establishing their own foundational belief systems.
Right.
And I thought, okay, well, I need maybe a dozen or 10 concepts that I want to write about.
Yeah.
And so I started brainstorming and writing words down on a whiteboard. And I got past 10 and kept going. I thought, well, I'll whittle this down, and I
Yeah.
kept going. I got past 40, 50, 80. I got to 99 and I made myself stop. And I said, this is ridiculous. You can't
Yeah.
write 99 chapters. But then as I looked over the list and started thinking about what do I want to write about, I said, no, all 99 of these concepts are inspirational.
Mm.
All 99 of these things could help shape a life. And what occurred to me, Michael, is that as we go through life, we learn things. And we either learn
Yeah.
things intentionally or because life forces it upon us. And you get slapped upside the head with a hardship or a difficult situation because of your life choices.
Yeah.
You learn maybe you made some unwise life choices, and it might shape how you think about things in the future and the choices you make going forward.
Yeah.
That's the hard way to learn, right?
Mhm.
To actually suffer the consequences of our bad decisions.
Yes.
we all do it, right?
Yes.
But that's the hard way to learn. But I thought you can also intentionally explore ideas and learn about them and make them a part of your habit, a part of your decision matrix,
Mm-hmm.
and make good decisions. And then don't have to get slapped upside the head with a bad experience.
Yeah.
And that became the purpose of the 99 words.
Wow.
The whole goal of the 99 words is you read these words and there'll be 3 or 4 that jump out. You'll be like, oh, that's kind of where I am right now.
Yeah.
I'd like to know more about that. Or, wow, life might be better if I'm really honest. Life might be better if I knew more about this.
Mm.
And then I put
Wow.
together a system that says, okay, you can now take these ideas and begin to ingrain them into your life,
Mhm.
understand them, and turn them into powerful tools that can leverage a
Right.
better life for your own self.
Yeah.
One
Yeah,
thing
that's-
that it's so obvious, but we don't take time to think about it, is we all make decisions based on what we believe.
Yeah.
And often they're very small decisions, like how long am I going to brush my teeth,
Right.
right? But we don't have to wrestle the difficult decision making because our minds take shortcuts And we need those shortcuts because decision making is very exhausting mentally. So
Yeah.
what happens is we start to believe something to be true, and that makes us do automatically what we think is best. And so your beliefs shape your decisions shape your actions shape your outcomes, and your outcomes shape your life.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a good belief system, where are you going to end up?
Mm-hmm.
If you do have a good belief system, it's going to lead you toward a more fulfilling, rewarding, meaningful, joyful life.
Right.
And so the 99 words were designed to be a key component of the process,
Right.
rather than waiting to get slapped upside the head with some difficult situation because I made stupid decisions.
Yeah. It's some reality.
I can look down the list and say,
Yes.
I'm going to work on that and
Right.
get ahead of the curve.
Oh,
So that's what it's about.
that's good. And you talk about, and I think this fits well with what you were just saying. You talk about those platforms for building beneficial belief systems.
Sure.
And what are some of the maybe the common structural flaws you might see in how people construct their beliefs, especially in today's modern world, like we talked about with the black screens?
The black screens celebrate things that in the end often are hollow.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the most important things is recognizing that having more followers on TikTok may not make my life more fulfilling.
Yeah.
You know, and that I might be chasing after a pipe dream that's never going to make a difference in my world.
Right.
Once you realize that, and it doesn't mean you can't enjoy TikTok, right? Once you realize that, then you can say, oh, well, what might make a real difference? And I have a chapter in the book on pop culture, and I just kind of summarize this whole dynamic in that chapter. But what we have to realize about pop culture is that it is entertainment.
Yeah.
And I celebrate that. Entertainment's great. Yeah, we want to be entertained. But when you see a pop star doing these crazy antics to try to get more attention, more money, more looks, sell more T-shirts, sell more concert tickets, whatever it might be, they do wilder and crazier things to capture the imaginations of their audiences. And we've all been desensitized to it to the point that they have to do more and more extreme antics to try to get our attention. But what we forget sometimes, especially younger people, is that we see people that are famous and we think they're doing right things. That's why they're famous.
Yeah. Right.
That's not the case.
No, not at all.
What they're doing is they're providing entertainment. And we can celebrate their talent and their entertainment, but we have to realize it's a game they're playing. It's not the real world. It's not what will make my life better. So they're not role models. And we shouldn't necessarily emulate them to try to find joy.
Yeah.
And I want to add to this another angle of this, which is a lot of that leads to nihilism.
That's true.
And nihilism is so destructive. And for people who may not be familiar with the word, very simply, it just means you believe there is no truth and that life doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That you don't have inherent value. And therefore, what do you do with that?
Yeah.
But that's where we end up if we don't take time to think it through. And the first step is to say, I'm going to dare to hope.
Yeah.
Dare to hope, because when our hopes are disappointed, it's devastating. And a lot of people quit hoping. And it's also a part of nihilism.
Yeah.
So the first step is to dare to hope. And then when you hope, you say life can be better. And one of the main themes of the book is life can be better because you can do better.
Yes, absolutely. It's almost like with the phones, we each have a variety of chord gestures to choose from.
Yes.
Yes. And now your children would have grown up in this transition to digital dominance, so to speak.
Sure.
How do you see this social media and algorithm-driven content affecting those young adults' ability to maybe form an authentic belief system compared to previous generations?
Wow. Information overload is very, very real. And when most of the information was designed to sell product, sell advertising, then the motivation for that information is askance. It's not designed to make your life better,
Right.
right? It's designed to catch your eye and to entertain.
Yeah.
And so when people feed on that and they miss out on other things, I mean, think about this for a moment. Time is a great governor of the universe. We all have the same amount of it. And if we waste our time, we're wasting our lives. We're wasting opportunities that could make life so much better. And so if we spend all of our time on a device being fed eye
Yeah.
candy for advertising,
Yes.
right? We're missing out on those life experiences that could be so informative.
Yeah.
I mean, even just taking a walk in the sunshine is so much healthier. But I was kind of laughing. I was talking to one of my sons just yesterday, and we were talking about social media, and he asked some question about, well, how dangerous do you think that is? And I said, well, you don't have to look very far. Just look at the neck posture of someone that's staring down at a phone, and the health consequences of having that neck posture alone will screw up your life in later years. And that's just a real obvious example, but we take on all sorts of negative habits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whenever we spend that much time on one thing that's feeding us misinformation, largely.
Yes. Yeah. And I was going to say, in line with that is chewing your food, ladies and gentlemen, so you get a good jawline and your
Sure.
facial muscles are strong. But
Yep.
I've got to ask you, seeing as how we're talking about culture and truth versus, Pontius Pilate is recorded to have said to Jesus Christ, "What is truth?" Still the same question. If you read
Yeah.
the political notes from Seneca, um, who was a Roman in politics, his letters could be written today. It just humanity does not change.
Right.
We some of those vessels that we use to carry our life around in, they might change, but in a cultural moment where the very concept of this objective truth is questioned, how do you suggest people maybe evaluate competing ideas to determine what's actually trustworthy enough to incorporate into their belief systems?
I have a chapter in the book on belief and on how to find truth. And Michael, I'll share with you and with your audience. I found great truth from Scripture, from the Bible, but I did not make that the focus of the book at all. And the reason is because we live in a generation when people are questioning that, and people that
Right.
need help will reject anything that
Of
says
course.
this is a Bible book. It's not a Bible
Yeah.
book,
Right.
right? But I guess there's an argument for not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, understanding that many thousands and thousands years of archetypal wisdom
Yeah.
has worked for thousands and thousands of years, and there's something there that might help inform us in our modern
Right.
day too. But I have another concept in the book, which is I call pragmatic truth. And it's my answer to postmodernism, which we already talked about. And if you say pragmaticism, people have different ideas of what that is from a philosophical standpoint. So I have to define terms carefully, especially because that's what postmodernism is based on, is semantics and
Yes.
different definitions of terms. So when I say pragmatic truth, what I mean is it's truth that works. And one way to evaluate if a truth is something that works or not is it life-giving or life-sucking?
Yeah.
Is it light-giving, shining light into dark places and informing us?
Yeah.
Or is it not light-giving?
Right.
If it's life-giving and light-giving, you're probably on a good track. Now, some people would say, yeah, but what works for me is a lifestyle, which, if they were honest, might be destructive to themselves, right?
Yeah.
That's not what I mean by pragmatic truth, because you're not looking far enough past the target, so to speak. One way to say it is, that last beer looks really, really good until the next morning.
Yes.
And then it's not so good. So if you can look past the target and say, what's the end result of this decision right now?
Mm-hmm.
It can help to shape a more pragmatic approach to life, which is, does it work? And if you
Yes.
have a belief that doesn't seem to work for you very well, you should question it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
That's
a
when you
good
should
point.
dive in and say, well, why do I believe that? And Michael, one other thing that's very, very important is that beliefs need to be reasonable.
Yeah.
And when I say reasonable, some people think, like in an argument, someone might say, well, just be reasonable, would you? And that's an insult. That's not what I'm
Of
talking about,
course. Yeah.
right? I'm talking able to be reasoned.
Yeah.
Um, our emotional intelligence informs a lot of what we believe, and I still want to embrace that. But if you cannot simultaneously provide an epistemological approach to why you believe this thing,
Mm-hmm.
if you can't reason it out and say it's got to be true because of this,
Yeah.
then that's not a real belief. You might believe it, but it's not something you should build a life on because you don't understand it yet.
Yeah.
And epistemology is a big $10 word that just means understanding how you know what you believe to be true. And the way to think about it, which might be helpful, is epi means top, like the epidermis of our skin. It
Yes.
means top. And stem means the source where things come from. And epistemology, ology means study. So we're talking about just what's the source of the stuff on the top that we believe.
Yeah.
And epistemology is very important because if you cannot explain why you believe something to be true, you're not ready to
Mm-hmm.
believe it.
Yeah. That's good words. And just to engage our audience again, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to maybe be a little vulnerable or pry back the covers of your own thinking. Feel free to put something in the comments that maybe there was a time where you realized what you thought was solid gold in terms of belief and foundation for life was just turning to powder on you. And perhaps it's sometimes those friend groups that we get in, or thanks to Huey Lewis in the News, maybe it's the power of love in your life. And I know that's an old song, but everybody's got to watch Back to the Future at least once.
Yes,
And so if we talk about the power of love, because that can be a great pitfall or a great pinnacle of somebody's life.
absolutely.
Can you describe maybe love not as a simplistic emotion, but as the greatest power?
Oh man. So obviously books have been written on this and I could
Uh-huh.
write several myself.
Yeah.
There are 3 chapters in my book on this one subject and
Right.
other chapters lean on it because that's the source of everything else.
Mm.
Love is one of those
Yeah.
foundational things, but people don't know what love is. And Michael, I'm making the assertion that love is the most threatening thing
Wow.
out there for most people. And what I mean by that is it asks us to be vulnerable. It asks us to be non-selfish. It asks us to be considerate. It asks so many things of us that are so
Mm.
difficult that society has cheapened love into something that's not love, and
Right.
they call it love, so they don't have to deal with the real thing.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And for instance, I might say to my wife, honey, I love you and I'll love you forever. And then I'll pick up a candy bar and say, man, I love this chocolate.
Yeah.
What's going on here? And
Yes.
we only have one word for love in English, which is kind of weird. We say things like puppy love or
Mm-hmm.
true love or we always come up with some, but other languages actually have different words for love and they
Oh.
can be very informative. And I like Greek when it
Yeah.
comes to love. There are at least 7, if not more, words in Greek that describe specific types of love. And so there's eros, which is erotic love, which is what pulp culture teaches us that love is
Yes.
mostly,
Yeah. The
right?
baby making love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's important, it's valuable, it's a really critical part of life, but
Yeah.
that's not what love's all about. There's filio, which we get Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Filio is friendship love. And man, that is powerful. That's really, really good. And you should have filio with your spouse as well as
Mm-hmm.
eros and all this sort of stuff. There's pragma, and I could go on, but my favorite, of course, is agape.
Okay.
And agape is divine love, and I assert it's a level of love that humans don't actually achieve.
Hmm.
But by pursuing it, we learn more about what real love is really about.
Yeah.
And there are many things in life that are like that. They're ideals worth pursuing because it improves our lives, not because
Mhm.
we're going to achieve it,
Right.
but because we can move toward it and life gets better and better and better. And
Yeah.
divine love is one of those things, completely unselfish,
Yeah.
giving, informed love. And sometimes love requires very, very difficult actions.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
is not a feeling. The feeling that we attribute with love is wonderful. Love is a commitment and an action and a way of behaving. And the feelings that come out of that are very, very rewarding. But we've got to get away from the ideas of falling in and out of love, that Eros is the only kind of love. These are the kind of themes that our modern culture really pushes.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to understand that love requires much of us. And if we
Yeah.
made true love-based decisions on every level, individually, in our families, in our friendships, in our communities, even in international politics,
Yes.
if we made love-based decisions, the world would be a completely different place.
Yeah.
But these are not the easy ways,
That's right.
not the
Absolutely.
easy roads.
Absolutely. So while we're on this subject and we're fixing to wrap up here, so to speak, can you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you and maybe get this book or some other resources that you have?
Oh, sure. This is what the book looks like. And so if you see us somewhere, that's it. 99 words, Building a Better Life. It's on Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll soon be available in other places as well. But right now, Amazon. And you can get in a link to the book if you'd like, or get in touch with me by going to kurtlinville.com.
Okay.
So kurtlinville.com has ways to reach me, and I do respond. So if you would like to visit, go ahead and contact me there. And you can find the book there. You can find links to some of the other projects that I have going on. And of course, you can go directly to Amazon as well.
Yes. So is there a connection then to, we haven't even talked about love in action, but this idea of love and then presenting ourselves as the authentic version of who we are? And maybe we need to
Yes.
know who that authentic version is before we can share it with somebody else. Can you talk into that a bit?
When people ask the question, who am I?
Yeah.
It's a very difficult question to answer. And I'm not sure it's the right question. I think maybe a better question is, what do I value? What do I think is important?
Mm-hmm.
And again, what's life-giving and light-giving?
Yes.
And when we begin to understand what we value and what we enjoy,
Yeah.
because we all have different gifts and talents. And when we pour ourselves into those in a way that benefits others,
Yeah.
we find meaning. And really, when you say, who am I? What are you actually saying? You're saying, what's important to me?
Mm-hmm.
And so authenticity is really about trying to answer that question of who am I? If you pour yourself into the things that you value, that you are uniquely qualified to provide for others, for yourself, if you pour yourself into that, you will find meaning and authenticity in life. You'll go, oh, this is it. This is who I am. It's what matters to me, makes up my authenticity and who I am. And I use the little example of you go to a party and you don't know where to put your hands.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't know anyone at the party. And it's like, oh, I'm here and trying to meet people, but golly, this is awkward. And if you don't know where to put your hands, just reach out to another person.
Yeah.
And ask about them.
Yes.
And listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And authentically care about what you can learn from them and about who they are and what they're bringing to the table. That's authenticity. And when you do that, people love you for it.
That's right.
Because another truism is, if you're worried about what other people are thinking about, you don't, because they're only thinking about themselves and what other people are thinking about them.
It's true. Yes. The world's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me? And ladies and gentlemen, just a helpful tidbit in this. This works for networking or being at a party or feeling insecure. When you reach your hand out to interact with someone, and you're talking to them, actually look down and see the direction of their feet. If they're pointed at you, that means they want to keep talking. If they're pointed in another direction, probably going to talk. They want to talk to that person over there if that's where their feet are pointed. So just a little helpful tidbit. Now we need to wrap things up, but beyond this book and your current projects, what's on the horizon for you?
Hmm. Well, the reason I wrote this book was not to sell books, Michael. It was because I wanted people to have a toolkit that they could use to build a better life.
Wow.
And when I finished writing the book, I realized I'm going to have to promote it now.
Yes.
And because if I don't, then why did I write the book? It's not about me. It's about providing a resource. Other things I have going on, I am going to continue to write, but right now I'm focused on trying to let people know this book exists. But I also have a kind of a silly side hobby project called Gunnymoto.
Yes.
And that's where I ride my motorcycle in the woods, in the mountains, and I just pontificate about things.
Nice.
So if that's of any curiosity to you, there's
Oh,
that.
that's a great website or YouTube channel. Sorry,
Oh,
go
it's
ahead.
fun.
Yes.
It's fun. Not professional.
Right.
It's just a way to connect with people. And I'm going to go ahead and announce it. Why not?
Sure, do it.
I am taking back my old podcast, the Adventure Sports Podcast, which I co-founded and hosted for many years before we sold it. And now I'm taking the reins again because Mason has reached a point in life where it's become too much to carry on. And I have more of a window to do it. So you'll be able to find me at the Adventure Sports Podcast.
Good.
And the goal of the podcast there is to help people have meaningful lives through interactions with others, through interactions with nature, through health and activity, and doing things that's fun. It's not a hedonistic podcast. It's more about, hey, you can do meaningful things with your life that'll make a difference.
Yes.
So you can find me there too.
That's great. Well, that's the Gunnymoto channel. I was watching it today, and you and I were chatting about it, and I was telling you that I had this thought. Well, in our home, we don't actually quest for Lamborghini money. It's actually those motorsport products and spending time in nature and probably the woodworking shop. That's the kind of payoff that we look for. But Kurt, I got to thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome, and thank you for your time, Michael, and thank you for helping me to get the word out that there's a resource for people.
Yes.
There is hope. Dare to hope. It's worth it.
Yes. And that, you've got that picture of a lighthouse. Lighthouses always have fantastic foundations.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's what I saw the lighthouse. And but then of course, what's under that lighthouse? What supports that source of light that is a beacon to ships in peril?
Well, if you look closely,
yeah,
those are the 99 words that are building the foundation of the
neat.
lighthouse.
Wow, that's great.
And that's really what it's about. That's really what it's about.
Yeah.
And we've all seen the picture of that lighthouse being hit by a monster wave that's almost bigger than the lighthouse, yet it stands firm. That's what I want for every listener out there, is that they would be able to stand that firm on their own foundation.
Wow, that's powerful. Powerful. Words to live by. Kurt, thanks again for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Michael.
Yes, and thank you to our viewers. We do appreciate you joining us for this conversation, and if you haven't already, please help us grow the channel. That's kind of what I want. But what's even better is for you to share this message with friends and neighbors and maybe some frenemies that actually really need to find out what these 99 words are. So do your friends a favor, do yourself a favor, more than me, please, of share this out and share some truth and love. If you got some birthdays coming up, or perhaps you're watching this around the holidays and Oh, you want to do a Thanksgiving gift. I mean, who does that? Well, 99 words could actually be an excellent way to end off the year for someone and start with those New Year's resolutions. And, when we're shooting this, we're not even close on the calendar to that. But in broadcasting, you're always 6 months ahead. So, or
There you go.
7 or 8 or 10, whatever the case might be. But one more thing to our delightful viewers, if you could be so kind as to leave a 5-star review as we're wrapping up this podcast, we would love that. And of course, I need to give a sincere thanks to those who have made the trek and ventured over to buymeacoffee.com/5am podcast. We do appreciate all those virtual cups of coffee that come our way. Thank you for that. And friends, thank you again for your support of the 5am podcast. We do appreciate it. We hope and pray that you seize your day and that you get up and enjoy those sunrises and sunsets. I'm Michael Clausen. Thanks for being here today.